Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com, and we're back with another Michigan recruiting report. We're going to be breaking down 5 key recruits that the Michigan staff saw on the road this week. Yes, Jim Harbaugh is interviewing with NFL teams, but that isn't stopping the rest of the staff from hitting the road and seeing guys on the trail. So we'll talk about that. But before we do, I want to make sure you like this video. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Get alerts every time we drop a new video, and also subscribe to the Wolverine.com for just $1 for 1 month. All right, let's start with top 100 2024 wide receiver Gatlin Bear. Remember the 5 key recruits that Michigan saw on the recruiting trail this week. The list obviously begins here with Bear. Bear is the lone remaining target in the 2024 recruiting class, and Michigan wide receivers coach Ron Bellamy went all the way out to Idaho to spend some time with him and his head coach, Cameron Anderson. And I think a lot of you guys are probably asking, well, what can Bellamy really sell as Jim Harbaugh continues to explore his NFL options? Well, most of this meeting really consisted of just breaking down Michigan's offense, breaking down the scheme, how he would fit in, the way he would be utilized, multiple different things they can do with him that they don't do with their current receivers, but also showing him things that he would be doing that the current receivers did. They've showed him a lot of film of Roman Wilson, a little bit of some Samaj Morgan. Remember, Gatlin Bear is an absolute game breaker, a guy that runs in the 10-2s in the 100 meter. He does have legitimate Olympic speed. He can stretch the field. He can provide just a different type of element to your offense. And that's been one of Bear's concerns is I can go to Oregon and play in a really pass happy system, or I can go to Michigan and be in more of a pro style scheme. And, again, that's been something that's been a knock against Michigan, but I think Bellamy's done a fantastic job of showing Bear what he can do and what he can bring to the offense. And same thing with Cameron Anderson, the head coach at Burley, Idaho. Anderson was the former head coach of Michigan tight end Colston Loveland, so he's very familiar with Michigan's offense and how Bear would be able to come in and, be an immediate difference maker once he completes his mission in 2026. You see, Michigan still has the lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. I think this visit helped, but Oregon has been gaining traction, and I think this recruitment will ultimately come down to Jim Harbaugh and what he decides to do. So Bellamy has done his part. Now we kind of sit back and wait and see what transpires with Harbaugh in the NFL. Let's go ahead and move on to another top 100 wide receiver, this one in the 2025 recruiting class, and that is Talon Taylor out of Chicagoland. Talon is one of the biggest targets on Michigan's board, regardless of position for next cycle. He's the number 80 overall recruit in the country per the On3 industry ranking. He's been to Michigan twice. He was recently on campus for the game against Ohio State. And look, Bellamy doesn't have an easy job of pitching wide receivers to play in this offense. We just talked about that with Bear. But in the same fashion, I think Taylor can see himself as an immediate difference maker, a guy that can come in and change the tempo of the offense and change the way it operates. He is a very, diverse weapon. He's a guy that can line up in the slot. He can play on the outside. He can return kicks and punts. I saw him live this year in game, and he was one of the most impressive recruits. He was definitely top 5 guys I saw all year long. He has great natural ball skills as a receiver. I think he could even play some DB if he wanted to. He's a guy that has terrific hands. He's a great route runner. He's explosive. He checks a lot of boxes for you. And I say DB, he was originally listed as an athlete. Like, Talon is a tremendous talent, but I do think that he'll stick on the offensive side of the ball and be a dynamo receiver. And his recruitment is pretty open. I mean, you see Wisconsin has the lead there, Notre Dame, Iowa, Michigan State, more regional schools. I think this is a very winnable recruitment for Michigan, even though, Georgia is involved heavily as well. That's not really reflected on the RPM, but I do think Michigan has a legitimate chance with Talon Taylor, and getting him back on campus this offseason will be key. Moving on to our next recruit, that is top 100 offensive lineman S.J. AloFuli out of Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman, national powerhouse. Obviously, Michigan was able to go into Bishop Gorman and land running back Micah Kaapana in the 2024 class. That connection is definitely helping out with SJ. I actually talked to Zach Libby before we started this video, and he told me of the 3 Bishop Gorman offensive linemen that have Michigan offers. SJ is really the most animated, the most, high intensity guy. And he seems legitimately excited about Michigan. You see USC, Nebraska, and Michigan are the schools at the top of his list. With Sharon Moore potentially being the next head coach and having won 2 Joe Moore awards and just being a guy that's very charismatic, that's really caught SJ's attention. And, the interior offensive line board is absolutely loaded for next cycle. There's definitely a need for tackles, but I think SJ is probably the best interior offensive lineman on the board, if not his teammate Douglas Udu. I mean, they can all play guard. I mean, they're maulers. I mean, Bishop Gorman had the best offensive line in the country. You could make the argument St. Edward in Ohio, but I think Bishop Gorman really opened up a ton of holes for Micah Kaapana and other running backs there. And SJ was a key part of that. So he is a recruit that Michigan fans need to know out west that we might not talk about a ton. Next on the list is 5-star defensive back DJ Pickett. Pickett obviously is the most important target on the recruiting board right now, the number 7 overall prospect in the country, the number 1 safety. Look, Pickett is a special talent. 6'3", 170 pounds, tremendous length. When I went out to see him live in the fall and even before that in the spring, I mean, I had him take that wingspan photo, and I was just amazed at how long this kid is. He's super athletic. I mean, again, the size is there. When you look at 6'3", 170 and you see that length, you're like, wow. But the speed, man, he's a guy that I believe ran in the 10.6s in the 100 meter. I mean, he's blazing for a guy his size, and those times are from his sophomore year. So you look at Michigan secondary, and there is going to be a need for immediate help. And Pickett's a guy that can play corner or safety at the next level. He can be, Steve Klingscale likes those tall, long corners. Pickett can definitely do that. I mean, he's a ball hawk as a safety as well and can slide in there, but you have versatility with Pickett. And in terms of Michigan's standing, Michigan's always going to be a school that's high on his list. His mother went to Michigan. He has family members that have worked at Michigan. His brother went to Eastern Michigan. There's just a lot of ties. His grandmother lives in the Detroit metro. So I think the Wolverines are trending in a good spot. I know a lot of people want to know about NIL, but Pickett has a really good head on his shoulders, great family. I think if there can be an NIL anomaly this cycle, it's DJ Pickett. And so I think Michigan does have a legitimate chance at landing the 5-star out of Florida. Let's go ahead and move over to our last prospect, and that is on 300 cornerback Alex Graham out of national powerhouse IMG Academy by way of Detroit, Michigan. So Steve Klingscale was in Florida this week, obviously seeing Pickett and seeing Alex Graham. And look, Graham is a top priority next cycle, and it's really not hard to see why. I saw him as an underclassman at Cass Tech, and he was extremely impressive. He came away with an interception in a playoff game and just looked the part of an elite defensive back. Now, he battled some injuries this year at IMG Academy and didn't have a ton of film, but what he did put out was really impressive. Graham's also a track kid. He has good size and length. Michigan is the leader on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. I have a prediction in for Michigan to land Graham, and I think things are trending the right way. I think Steve Klingscale is able to relate to him on a personal level. The ties to being a Detroit kid and having been on campus multiple times, including for the Ohio State game, really helped. His mom attended Michigan. So, I think Michigan is the team to beat for Alex Graham. And despite his, relocation to the Southeast, I don't think that's really changed his recruitment too much. I also don't think he's huge on NIL. Alex is a very quiet kid, just like DJ Pickett. So I think you could legitimately see a secondary of Alex Graham and DJ Pickett, which would absolutely be phenomenal after losing out on Chris Ewald. All right, guys, that is my time. Appreciate y'all for joining. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, and subscribe to the Wolverine.com for just $1 for 1 month.